Bobby Shoemaker, Andrew Calvano. It's Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge for Friday, June 3rd. 4 races. We've got one at Belmont Park this week, one more at Churchill, and then Andrew and I will end things in Arcadia, California at the Great Race Place. But Andrew, let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it this week. Let's start at beautiful Belmont Park. It's race 8 on the card. It's the Grade 3 Pennine Ridge Stakes. It's a mile and an eighth on the inner turf for 3-year-olds. It's a field of 10. Camelot Kitten, the 2-horse, is your 8-5 morning line favorite. You and I both have a distaste in our mouth, to say the least, for Camelot Kitten, who came up and beat us both in the pick 4 by a nose on Kentucky Derby Day. It was certainly a good effort and came out of the clouds to do it. Chad Brown, Irad Ortiz, third off the layoff. To me, by what I just said, should be the favorite.
Yeah, and definitely, undisputed favorite here. Besides that, Breeders' Cup, juvenile turf last year, the horse hasn't really done much wrong. And like you said, a big performance on Derby Day, the American turf. So, the favorite, 100%, the one to beat, could be. I'm going to look for some more value there. With that being said, I landed on a nice price here. That's number 1, Hammer's Vision, going out for Brian Lynch and Angel Arroyo. Second off the layoff for Brian Lynch, who's been ultra impressive since he started bringing horses here to New York. His only win came from sprinting. It was a maiden score over this course. He beat Manhattan Dan that day, and he's run into some trouble ever since. So after the maiden score, the horse runs third behind Exaggerated the Saratoga Special at the Spa. Tries a grade 2 at Woodbine, goes down to his head first, eased and beaten 15 lengths, crossing it out. Finishes a decent fourth between Conquest Enforcer and Shakamat, 2 great horses that we saw on Kentucky Derby Day. And then a very game second last out, 7 months off the layoff over a yielding turf course. And maybe this horse prefers turf sprinting, but his sire won the Breeders' Cup Turf Mile a couple years back and some other long turf races. So you should have got a nice pace to stalk here. I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the rail and Angel Arroyo decides to send him out because I don't see too much speed lined up. I prefer that he stalk, maybe save some ground, but that could wind up being a trouble trip. So we'll see. Couldn't expect both trips out of him. But nonetheless, I think this horse adds great value for a hot barn and a horse that has had some trouble, but the ability to prove himself.
Who do you see going to the lead here, Andrew? Is it the 4 horses are? That's who Timeform US has going to the lead, but I'm not too sure if that's the case. This horse hasn't shown a lot of speed as of late. I mean, obviously the Turfway Park race April 2nd was on the lead, but you could argue that race was unbelievably slow for him to be on the lead to begin with. Who's going to the lead here? Because I had your 1 on the lead.
Yeah, I had Azar on the lead as well. Also saw some speed coming out of the 9, Toughest Ombre, but that's just a long shot that will go out there, set it, and then eventually fall back. Dresden Hermes, I know he's shown some decent speed in the past. I don't expect him being the pace setter by any means, but I know he's going to be up on the front end today. And like I said, Hammer's Vision, they might have to send him from the rail, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's up there.
Yeah, at the end of the day, from a pace standpoint, Andrew, I do believe your horse is going to be on the front end. Not necessarily just because the horse is stretching out. That doesn't hurt, stretching out second off the layoff. But on the rail, and there's just not a lot of speed in here, if you ask me. I ended up going with the outside horse here, the 10-horse Noble Quality, for a plethora of reasons. Third off the layoff for a red-hot Christopher Clement. Gets a jockey upgrade from Elvis Trujillo to Manny Franco. And I don't know if a lot of people know this or not because Jose Ortiz is putting on such a show nationally. But Franco is second in wins right now at Belmont Park. And he's certainly vastly improved this Belmont Park meet. So you're going from Trujillo to Franco. I think that's a significant upgrade. But in the end, Andrew, the thing that really did it for me was this horse's last effort. First time going 2 turns with Trujillo. He went wide all the way around the racetrack from that 11 hole, 5 wide, 6 wide. Timeform says he finished well. When I see something like that, I go back to the tape. I thought it was a valiant effort considering his first time going 2 turns and with that wide trip. I just don't believe that Clement would ship this horse up here off less than a 30-day layoff if he didn't look at the condition book and say, my horse has a big shot here to run well. I think this horse's last effort was as good as anyone else's last or second to last effort in here, deceivingly. I think if this horse had not drawn the 11 hole, Andrew, gets maybe the 7 or 8 hole, this horse probably wins, and you're not looking at 12-1. This horse is a big-time player. The only concern is obviously the post. You don't want to get to that wide trip again. So I'm hoping this horse can rate a bit, get on that second shelf behind the 1 horse and possibly the 4 if Timeform US is right. And then when they turn for home, show the talent that I believe is there on the 10. And I will take 12-1 or double-digit odds on Clement, who going 2 turns on the turf is certainly his skill set.
Yeah, and like you said, Bob, and I'll back you up there. Christophe Clement just ultra hot right now, especially on the turf. And the point you made about Manny Franco, Manny Franco picks up mounts. He has mounts for Christophe Clement, Todd Pletcher, some Chad Brown horses when, Irad or Castellano aren't on them. Manny Franco's a very respectable rider, and I've been saying he's one of the best value jockeys out in the New York circuit. With that being said, Bob, actually number 10, Noble Quality, was actually my second pick before I went to my horse. I mean, he's coming out of races with Manhattan Dan, Jan's Reserve, and my horse from that maiden special last summer here at Belmont. But 5 wide, 6 wide, coming down the stretch in that last race. You say that horse goes 3 wide. This horse is a winner in that race.
Yeah.
So definitely a good horse you landed.
Something else I'd like to point out, I think that there may be, or there's a possibility of a lot of different style of gamblers landing on this horse. Number 1, speed figure wise, he run a 110 Timeform US speed figure, second off the layoff. And then trip handicappers as well, as I just mentioned. 5 and 6 wide, first time going 2 turns. I think there's a lot of things to like about this horse that we just mentioned. And if this horse goes off anywhere near that price, I'm certainly betting this horse through the window. Another horse I wanted to mention that I'm going to include in my exotic, because I really feel like that this race could pay big time, not only from a win perspective, but also exotics from a trifecta exacta standpoint, is the 6 horse Dresden Hermes. I think he's a dark horse. He's got tons of class with the Breeders' Cup race, losing to Hit It a Bomb by only 4.5 lengths. And again, I understand 4.5 lengths isn't a length, but when you're losing to Hit It a Bomb and competing in a race of that nature, you certainly have talent. And then he beats what I felt like was a very good group November 29th at Del Mar. I mean, that race came out live. He's ran 1 bad race, and that was the last race at Churchill Downs. A plethora of things could have happened there, Andrew. Maybe he didn't like the turf course, and it could have had a lot to do with the crowd. He's never going to see a crowd like that again. This horse is a player, and I just went with the Clement angle because he's hot, but I think I'm going to go 6'10", 6'10" all here and see if I can get lucky. I think that horse has a big-time shot to run in the money and possibly win this race.
Without a doubt, and some people question, why are these California-based horses, coming? But it's always, to me, it's always confidence. A trainer wouldn't ship a horse across the country to lose in a Grade 3 race, So it definitely Dresden Hermes. I mean, look at the horses he's running behind. He comes out in the same race, with Beach Patrol, Camelot Kitten, Surgical Strike, who was a next out winner, racing maiden races, racing against Exaggerator. Like you said, Hit the Bomb, Aero Force. I mean, this horse has a lot of good horses out in his running lines, so definitely a horse to play underneath. And I wrote for my picks up for Saturday. I even included him in my pick 4. You got to cover yourself with this one.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Andrew. And I love how you construct pick 4 tickets. You're one of the best that I've seen, and to hear you say you're going to include this horse gives me even more confidence in this horse to run a whale of a race. Not a big Eric Cancel fan, but sometimes the talent of the horse can overcome the jockey. But at the end of the day, I think the 10 horse ran a whale of a race last time out. I expect a better effort this time with a better jockey. So again, you're on the 1 horse Hammer's Vision. I'm on the 10 horse Noble Quality. As far as pick 4s, things of that nature, I know you said you'd include the 1, the 6, I'm assuming the 10. And would you stop there or would you go deeper?
Yeah, I put up 2 pick 4s for the weekend. The first one I singled the 1. That's how confident I am. But in my other pick 4, and these are both tickets under $30, playable tickets for all players. My other ticket, I believe I went 1, 2, 6, 10. I believe were my 4, and then I singled elsewhere.
Well, there you heard it from Andrew and I there at Belmont Park. Only 1 race there this week. We will move to Churchill Downs, Andrew, in a very tough sprint race. It's race 9 on the card. It's an overnight stakes, a $67,000 purse. As I mentioned, 5 furlongs for 3-year-olds and up. It's a field of 11. And I believe it's pronounced Hoagie. The 10 horse is your 7-2 morning line favorite off that long layoff. I'll just say it now. Horses that short of a price, Andrew, off that type of layoff with other talent in here. If they win, I don't.
Yeah, and I actually look back. I've actually had this horse in my virtual stable for 2 years now. I've been on this horse for a while, but like you said, coming off that long layoff, I don't think we're going to see 7-2. I think we're seeing more toward 5-2. So I'm going to lay off. I respect him 100%. He is the one to beat, but he's going to have a lot of things to overcome. With that being said, I'm going to try number 8, Tiger Tank, second off the layoff for Ben Colebrook. Starting off a little bit slow this meet, but always a trainer that's always in the top 10. Tries the turf for the first time, has some solid tactical speed, has even shown the ability to rate. I mean, he's coming out of some tough barns, the Dutch Show barns, the Trombetta barns, all those guys that really run their circuits. So I'm going to give this one a shot. If he can rate, I think that would be better off for him because I noticed some more speed coming in. But nonetheless, I mean, he's running on some sloppy tracks, some good tracks. I'm throwing those races out. He's run very well on fast tracks, so maybe he takes to the turf. He has some good turf pedigree on his dam side, not so much the sire side. So we'll see. Hopefully we can catch this one.
Yeah, I think that this horse is going to rate, and the reason I say that is because I look at the jockey aboard. I mean, Corey's a very patient rider. He spends most of his time in the middle to the back of the pack with horses, trying to save a lot of ground, and I think that's why he's so successful at Churchill Downs on the dirt course. It's a long stretch, and he could take advantage of making that one run, and then coming up the rail if he can, saving all the ground and cashing tickets. I think this horse will settle. A horse I wanted to ask you about, I thought was intriguing, and Timeform's a big fan of him, is the 2-horse Ray's Warrior. Also going from dirt to turf, has showed exemplary speed on the dirt, not only at Churchill Downs, but Oaklawn Park. Your thoughts on this horse? I looked at it from a time perspective. Obviously, going from dirt to turf is a big difference, but he's very fast on the dirt, and if that translates, he's going to be the horse to catch.
Without a doubt, this horse definitely has the most speed in the group. This is the horse I'm most afraid of. I actually played this horse when he was in the Dutch Show barn, his debut at Aqueduct, Jose Ortiz aboard. Finishes third that day, then switches barns and goes down to Oaklawn, races at Churchill Downs. But ever since the barn switch, I mean, this horse has really been, I wouldn't say unstoppable, but really is doing nothing wrong. So I think that's going to be a big thing. He's definitely the one to catch. And if let alone on the front end, that's going to make a problem for everybody else. Another
question I have for you, and it's in reference to both your 2 and the 8. Why do you think the dirt switch to the switch to turf here? Is it just a pedigree where they say, hey, he's been running well on the dirt, let's give him a shot in this overnight stakes on the turf because we don't feel like it comes up that salty? Your thoughts on the thought process of situations like the 2 and the 8, especially the 2, because this horse has won 3 of 4 and has been fantastic in doing so.
Yeah, I was confused about the 2 going to turf. I mean, that horse is he's bred for the dirt. He's been doing not much wrong on the dirt. So, the switch to turf, I'm not really, sold on it. But then again, like we said, that speed, you can't throw him out because that's what he has. As far as the 8, comes out of a sire tail of the cat. But the dam side, a lot of turf pedigree there. And in my mind, Ben Colebrook, he knows what he's doing. He doesn't win too much, but he always has good value prices finishing in the money. So, I mean, the horse is running well with $80,000 optional claimers, and I think it's just a confidence. Maybe he knows the pedigree's there. Maybe he just wants to try something different and wake the horse up. Maybe it's something like that. That's what I saw in the 8.
Yeah, I just think a lot of the times, and I'm accustomed to this, and you see a lot at Gulfstream Park in low-level claimers where things aren't working on one surface and they switch to another. So I was intrigued to hear your thoughts specifically on the 2. That's kind of a head-scratcher, but maybe he's just a versatile horse who can do both. At the end of the day, Andrew, I thought the 2 was the horse to beat, in my opinion, if those numbers translate. But I landed on the 5-horse Latest Revenge at 10-1. This horse was put in 2 races consecutively in Grade 2 and Grade 3 straight races, facing horses such as Rocket Heat, Power Alert, and Undrafted. And again, I'm not as big on class as others are, but this horse competed especially early in those races and was part of a contested pace. If you go back to March 6th and February 11th, those efforts can win in here, especially that effort March 6th. This horse was dominating those two races. His numbers could have been higher, but he was basically handwritten around the racetrack, winning by open lengths, and that's why you saw the move up to graded stakes races. I can't believe this horse is 10-1, considering the class and people bet class and how he looked with his quote-unquote friends in those allowance races, which, let's face it, this is basically a dressed-up allowance race. I mean, it's nothing more than that. I cannot believe this horse is 10-1. Be 10-1 on Saturday, because I'm going to bet this horse through the window as well. I think this horse can win and pay a good price.
Yeah, when I did the morning line odds, I had this horse closer to 9-2. But like you said, any horse dropping down from graded stakes company back into a group where you know he succeeded is always scary. So see, 10-1 on a horse who comes off a 2-race winning streak, tries, graded stakes, doesn't do too well, but look who he's running against. Commute, undrafted, Rocket Heat, Power Alert. And then he comes back down to be respected. So 10-1, Bob, I don't know if you'll get that. I thought you'd get more 9-2-ish, but...
And look at these running lines at 5.5. Good speed, pace, inside turn, responded well, ridden out. And basically ridden out means, it's just a hand ride to the wire. I think this horse is a big-time player. And again, if the 2's numbers don't translate, the 5 horse might just go to the lead or be forwardly placed and win this thing going away. Would you include a horse like this? I'm assuming yes in any exotics that you would play. I mean, he's got to be in there, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, and if you look back, he's really, besides the favorite, he's one of the most accomplished turf sprinters. So with the class drop, the success he's shown, and I mean, like you said, hand rides, ridden out, you have to include him with 100%.
So you would go. So you do believe the Hoagie's the horse to beat, albeit off that layoff?
Yeah, without a doubt. Still.
Okay, so Andrew is on the 8 Tiger Tank, and I'm very confident on the 5 horse Leighton Revenge at 10-1. So let's go to Santa Anita, race 8 on the card. We'll go out west, Andrew. It's a $30,000 allowance optional claimer down the hill, 6.5 furlongs on the turf for 3-year-olds and up. It's a field of 12. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this horse's name. It's the 11 horse. He's your 7-2 morning line favorite. I feel like a very beatable morning line favorite, Andrew. I wanted your thoughts on this race and this horse specifically. And before we move on to actually breaking down the race, can you pronounce this horse's name?
No. I tried that. Skilleris, I tried. But, going into it, DRF is very high on this horse. A lot of the guys I respect, are picking this horse. But I just don't see it. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe the horse is cranked and, we don't know about it. But, I mean, I could tell you why he's being respected. Peter Miller's 36% off the claim. It's the first time gelding. Maybe they're looking at stuff there, the way he won. But that race was only a 4.5 furlong race. Now the horse not only is stretching out to 6.5 furlongs, but has to do it on the downhill turf course. Downhill turf, there's 12 horses. At a short price, that's just not what I'm going for, especially on that course. Because you know as well as me, Bob, if you're in that 11 post, and when you're going that right-hand turn, if you're way too wide, you're at it.
You're exactly right.
So I can see why they made him the favorite, but I just don't know if he's the one to beat. With that being said, I actually went to the horse right to his inside, and that's number 10, broken up 6-1. And like I said before, Bob, this is a wide open race. And it was a very difficult race to handicap, in my opinion, because no one really jumped off the page to me. But this horse is one of the only horses that has actually had success on the turf. And I find that horses cutting back from 2-turn turf races actually enjoy going down the hill. Because I think to them, they see it as a long race. It's kind of like a marathon, just the way they're moving around, but it's really not. So hopefully he'll take to that. He needs to rate right off the pace, and the pace doesn't seem to be too crazy in this one. I like Tyler Bays, and the trainer's off to a really good start, Evie Freeman. So hopefully with the blinkers on, you're going back to Tyler Bays. The horse has already faced similar allowance groups here and at Golden Gate. They try to send him to Golden Gate, I guess, try to get him a win. Finished 5th, but, you look at the replay, much better than that. Only a length or 2 off the winner there, going 4 wide. So I'm hoping with the new barn switch, the addition of blinkers, And the fact that he's going to like the 6.5 downhill turf, we can get this one home at 6-1.
Two things I'd like to point out that you mentioned. First of all, Tripp going down the hill at Santa Anita. We've talked about this at Gulfstream Park earlier this year about that first turn and how important it is to save ground.
Yep.
I'm not sure, Andrew, if Tripp doesn't mean more at Santa Anita going down the hill than any other race or racetrack in the United States. And you don't want to be drawn to the inside in the one hole unless you're dead speed, and you really don't want to be outside for the most part at all unless you got a whale of a horse, because 9 times out of 10, something's going to happen. Yep. You're going to lose ground. You're going to get cut off. You're going to get bumped. And if you don't have I'm not going to call it a superstar, but if you don't have a very good horse under you, in all likelihood, you're not going to win the race. The second thing I'd like to point out is you mentioned Tyler Bays going down the hill. This guy's incredible. He and Phil D'Amato, and I understand Phil's not with Tyler in this race specifically, but they made a killing going down the hill all winter. And I think that's Tyler Bays' best type of race, going down the hill. And also, I'll point out something else you mentioned. You're right about horses going a mile, cutting back, going down the hill 6.5. I've bet them before. They've run very well there. So all good points. I wouldn't be surprised and shocked in the least if this horse won the race. As far as a pace standpoint is concerned, who knows? You got first-time starters. You got horses getting on a surface they've never been on, going down the hill, which they've never done before. But in the end, I landed on a horse that had been down the hill, has done it 2 consecutive times, and in fact is coming off a win in his last race, and that is the 2-horse, Nats Nation. Now, I'm not a fan of the Nationals, but I'll be a fan of this horse if he wins this race on Saturday. Like the race last time out. Understand it was a maiden, and I don't particularly care for horses facing winners for the first time, but as we mentioned at Churchill Downs, it was a dressed-up allowance. This is a dressed-up starter allowance. This is basically a claimer, in my opinion. That last race beats anything in this field, in my opinion. I like the post draw. I think he could be the speed of the speed. Not really sure, but I know he's faster than the 1. He'll be able to get past the 1, get to the rail, save all the ground, be forwardly placed. Pipey's not the worst trainer in the world to have have as your horse's trainer, and Joe Talamo's not that bad either. Am I crazy about 4-1 considering first-time facing winners? No. Would I take 3 or 4-1 in a tournament to set it up for something else? I would. So I'll roll with the 2-horse Nats Nation at 4-1. Your thoughts on my pick?
I actually thought your horse was the one to beat solely because he has the experience going down the hill. 20% trainer jockey percentage there, like I said. I mean, not the best trainer, but I mean, when you get past Baltus, D'Amato, and Baffert, he's right there. He's a second-tier West Coast guy. Always like his horses, what he always sends out. And Joe Talamo, a couple of years back, he was supposed to be the next Mike Smith. And, maybe he's not at that point yet, but he's a very talented young rider. So I thought your horse was the one to beat. I think we'll see more speed because he's on the inside. I think Talamo would just want to get him out. But I don't think he's going to be contested too much should he do that. And even if he doesn't grab the lead, he'll sit right behind it, and Talamo will set him up for a good trip.
What do you think about the D'Amato horse, the 7-horse? I almost went with this horse, switching surfaces, going turf to dirt. Dirt to turf. As I mentioned to you about Phil D'Amato going down the hill, he loves these races. I mean, he wasn't outstanding in that $50,000 maiden claimer going 6 furlongs, but it was off the 170 layoff. He then stretches him out to a mile where he showed some speed to the inside going a mile. Now he goes dirt to turf, cutting back in distance. 10-1 on Phil D'Amato. How in the world can you leave this horse off any of your exotics?
No, and you can't off the angle alone that Phil D'Amato runs the downhill turf course. Santiago Gonzalez. Here's the thing. Santiago Gonzalez is a very good jockey. I like him. He's one of my favorite guys out there. If Bejarano's on this horse is 3-1. You know what I mean? So maybe that's why we're seeing 10-1 here. But I think the horse is to be respected nonetheless because of the best trainer going down the hill and dirt to turf clicking at 22%. So we'll see. Not a horse I would leave off any pick 4 tickets or exotics just off that factor alone, because I don't need to watch the race and then say, how did I not bet Phil D'Amato on the turf?
Does Scaleris, that's what we'll call him, Scaleris, does he finish in the money here? I'm going to say no.
Off the layoff with Jose Lezcano, who, I mean, I know he used to be on the West Coast a couple years back, but hasn't been on it since. I mean, I'm going to try to beat him 100%.
Gotcha. So I am, again, on the 2-horse Nats Nation, and I believe you said you were on the 10-horse Broken Up. That is correct. So I think we both are on the 2 most likely winners, in my opinion. Last, certainly not least, Santa Anita Race 11, and this race, Andrew, for a lot of our viewers out there, it's going to be the last race of high-stakes tournaments. So pay attention. Field of 12, Hobbit's Hero, the 8-horse, is your 5-2 morning line favorite. I do believe this horse is the one to beat. I think this horse is the most talented horse in the race, but I'm not going to pick him to win. Before I give my selection, give me your perspective of the pace breakdown, and do you believe Hobbit's Hero in the end is the one to catch?
I think definitely he's the one to beat, the one to catch. I don't think he'll be alone on the front end. So I think if he wins this race, he really shows the animal he is. But I mean, you can't knock his record.
No.
And starts 7 wins over the Santa Anita turf. It's Rafael Bejarano, Richard Baltas. Horses coming in off a couple race winning streaks. So definitely the horse to beat. Definitely the horse to be respected. But I think he's going to have some company on the front end. I think this pace is actually going to be ultra hot, Bob. If I'm seeing it the way I'm seeing it, I'm seeing speed from the 11 St. Joe Bay. Like we said, Hobbit's Hero. I think there's going to be some speed from the number 7 to the bar. We could see some speed out of number 5, John Success. See some speed from the inside. So I think this race is just loaded with speed. And going into my top selection, I need a horse that is nowhere near the speed if this race is going to pan out how I'm saying that. And with that being said, I'm going to go with number 2, Film Freak at 12-1. Too much speed in this race. Looking for a horse I know will be nowhere near it. He gets arguably the best turf jockey on the West Coast. And if he's not the best turf jockey, then he's definitely the second one behind Bejarano.
Right.
So I'm getting double-digit odds on a 20% trader and Flavion Pratt. The horse has had success closing. Down the hill, he was successful. He went 1.1 miles last time over a wet turf. Finished a decent 4th. But I'm looking back at April 2nd race. I thought he closed very well, only beaten half a length. Maybe that's the reason they stretched him out to 1.1 miles. But I think if he gets a perfectly timed trip and Flavion Pratt can just settle him down, let the speed, work out and go too quick, I think this is the horse that picks up the pieces.
Anytime as a jockey, if you're second best to Rafael Bejarano at anything, you're doing your job very well. And I had Film Freak as one of my players as well. I agree with you wholeheartedly in reference to the pace. Hobbit's Hero, if he wins this one, he is going to have earned it. He's going to have St. Joe's Bay with him. And others, as you mentioned as well, there's a lot of horses stretching out here. And as I say almost weekly on this show, if you're showing speed at 6.5, you're certainly going to show speed at 1 mile. One thing I wanted to point out about Hobbit's Hero is that, yes, this horse has been very impressive, but he's also had it his own way, in my opinion, in the claiming ranks. And I know that he earned it last time out. He only won by nose. He's cutting back in distance. As I mentioned, I do believe he's the horse to beat. He's the deserved favorite. He might have all the talent, but he's certainly going to have to earn it here because they're going to go very fast. A horse that I landed on is very similar to the 6-horse that I landed on at Santa Anita last week, who was 5-1 morning line, Burt's Melody. Ends up going off 9-5. Couldn't believe it. Thought he was a horrible favorite. Wins anyway. You know how he had showed speed at 1 mile, went to 1 mile and 1/8, or maybe showed speed at 1 mile and 1/8, was cutting back to that mile distance and rated just off the pace a tad to get the job done. I look at To the Bar, the 7-horse here. Now this horse, at 1 mile, 2 starts back, had a terrible trip. Was wide all the way around the racetrack from the 9-hole. Throw it out. Then they stretch him out to 1 mile and 1/8, showed exemplary speed, Andrew, going 1 mile and 1/8. Carried the load a long ways. He got beat by 7, but the 7-length defeat does not exemplify the race that this horse runs. Now they cut him back in distance. My mindset is this: he won't be on the lead. He'll be off the lead. And if he can be off that hot pace that you and I both are in agreement is going to take place and run back to that May 8th effort, I think he's going to win this race. And at 12-1 with a jockey that you were just very complimentary of, and I don't think Ron Ellis is the worst trainer in the world either. He's about in that same realm as Mike Pipey. And in fact, he's been very successful with some high-profile horses in the past. This horse shouldn't be 12-1. He might not win the race, but I don't think To The Bar should be 12-1. And I give him a big shot here if we get the pace meltdown that we think we're going to get.
Without a doubt. And when he broke his mate, he showed that ability, to rate, and that was going a mile over this course. So, like you said, we've seen it done in the past. Last race we were talking about, he did all the dirty work. I'm right with you, Bob. So if he cuts back, not cut back, but you know what I mean. If he just sits back a little bit and rates, I think he's a player as well. I had him on one of my players list. Not a horse I would throw off in the pick fours, pick fives, whatever it may be, because with this hot pace, you just can't trust this favorite. Like, we're both in agreement that the horse wins, he earned it, but I think you got to go deep here in horizontals and try to beat a favorite that's going to really have to earn it. So I like your pick, To The Bar, and the Ken and Sarah Ramsey bred this horse, so they put him right on the turf like it's supposed to be. Kitten Shoys always do well. So I think this is a major player. And like I said, I made a lot of money on Santiago Gonzalez. He's a solid jockey. So if I can get him at 12-1, I'm going to roll with it.
I was looking for another horse to put into my trifecta. Film Freak was on that short list. You made him on that list with your pick. I get it. You don't want him to be anywhere near the pace. You're taking the absolute safe and honest route going. I know for a fact that Film Freak's going to be coming out of the clouds. And I get one of the best jockeys to do that. At the end of the day, is St. Joe Bay going to be the death of Hobbit's Hero in this race? To me, that is the reason I didn't pick Hobbit's Hero to get the job done.
I think so, because he hasn't had much experience on the turf. So when I see that, now not only are we going to a surface that we're not comfortable with, but now we've got to do our thing. This horse is a one-way speed horse, so they're not going to change tactics because they're already changing surfaces. So this horse is going to go right out to the lead. The number 8, Hobbit's Hero, like you said, he can only do it one way himself, so they're going to battle it out. And it's not just them two. There's plenty more speed going to go out with them. So, but I think number 11 is ultimately the horse that is the biggest threat to number 8, Hobbit's Hero.
One more kudo to The Bar here. Look at that last workout, Andrew. 4 furlongs in 46 4/5, second of 31. He may not win, but he's on his best effort, in my opinion.
Without a doubt. And like you said, that's always a highlight there. Even if it doesn't have the bullet drill fastest of the day, you got to read into him some more. Second out of 31, that's still to be respected. If he was, he goes 46 4 there. If someone else goes 46 2, what's the difference at that point? They're not racing against each other here. A horse I wanted to bring up and ask you about, Bob,
sure,
was number 6, Act. Came off a very long layoff last time out and switched into the Peter Urton bar. He did what you expected for coming off such a long layoff. Finishes a decent third, and that was a part of Kentucky Derby, the festival week. I believe that was a Thursday. So you had some quality races there. A 79 buyer of a third-place effort off such a long layoff. Now he stretches out. Peter Urton, respectable train out there. He's off to a good start. You think anything come out of this horse? I
think he's going to help our horses win the race because he's going to be on the lead, going as fast as he can for as far as he can. And if Hobbit's Hero had shown any versatility in the past, he would be able to rate off these horses and do his thing. But he just has never been able to show that, and that's why I think Act and other horses stretching out, especially this horse stretching out, I just think they're all going to compromise each other, and I really believe at the end of the day, unless Hobbit's Hero is a freak, that you and I have one of the winners here.
Yeah, without a doubt. Between your horse, my horse, we got 12-1 on each of them. Like you said, this closes out the major tournaments this weekend. So if you're in a position where you need to catch up, you're looking at a horse that can get you $45 across the board and really move you into a spot.
No question about it. Andrew on Film Freak, the 2-horse. I'm on the 7, To The Bar. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge. As always, Andrew and I hope we have found you a lot of winners that can make you a lot of money. And next week, it'll be Belmont Week. And until then, and as always, good luck.
Good luck, guys.